This is Dan. He's an anesthesiologist whose job is to administer and manage anesthesia to people before and during surgery, often to remove cancerous brain tumours. And he also happens to be one of my biggest patrons, and hence he's largely responsible for my being able to do this nearly full time. He's a legend, twice over, right? Anyhow, as gratitude for his tier of support, he has both suggested and worked closely with me on a topic of his choosing, and as is given away by the title of this video, he's chosen the argument that there are no atheists in Foxholes. Now the reason for this, which he doesn't mind me sharing, is because while he's witnessed a lot of people invoking God before being anaesthetised, by saying something like it's all up to God now, or that God will guide your hands, he's also witnessed a lot of atheists not invoking God. He's witnessed, first-hand, atheists in Foxholes. And so, without further ado, this is There Are No Atheists in Foxholes Debunked. The assertion that there are no atheists in Foxholes can be traced back to the Battle of Bataan in 1942, where it was first coined by either Reverend William T. Cummings, Lieutenant Colonel Warren J., or Lieutenant Colonel William Casey. However, slightly reworded versions of the statement have existed for centuries, and so its true origin is unknown. In any case, put simply, it's the assertion that whenever an atheist is under extreme stress and fear, such as if they were at war inside a foxhole, or if they were about to receive brain surgery, they will all of a sudden turn to and believe in God. Or in other words, it's the assertion that a scared atheist is a theist. So, is it true? Are there really no atheists in Foxholes? Do atheists really turn to God in their hour of need? Well, the truth of the matter is that these are two separate questions that are often conflated, and they shouldn't be because they don't share the same answer. However, before I address either of them, I want to make three critical flaws abundantly clear. The first is that even if there were no atheists in Foxholes, this wouldn't somehow prove the existence of a God. Once upon a time, everybody believed that the Earth was flat, but this obviously didn't make it so. Beliefs don't change facts, and hence, if a theist is attempting to use this argument to prove the existence of their God, then they failed spectacularly. And if they're not using it for this purpose, then just what the hell are they using it for? The second flaw I want to make clear is that whenever a proponent of this assertion says the word God, they're almost always referring to their very specific interpretation of their very specific God, which means that they're either consciously or unconsciously committing a black and white fallacy. It's not atheism or their very specific God, it's atheism or theism, which means one or more of several thousand gods. Or to borrow a line from Hitch, even if this argument somehow proved the existence of a God, which it doesn't, it would still leave them empty-handed, with all of their work ahead of them to get to theism. And the third flaw I want to make clear is a superficially pedantic one. Due to the fact that the most prevalent religions in the West are theistic, within Western culture, the word atheist has become synonymous with the word non-religious. But in the East, and indeed by definition, the word atheist only means without God or non-theism, and hence non-theistic religions, such as Buddhism, are indeed atheistic. And so what I'm getting at here is that when someone says there are no atheists in Foxholes, what they're more often than not really saying is that there are no non-religious people in Foxholes. Either this, or they're asserting that deeply religious people who don't believe in a God will, in their time of need, appeal not to their own religious beliefs, but to an arbitrary God that they may not have even heard of, which is absolutely absurd. Anyhow, with these three flaws made clear, which, for the record, means that the argument is dead and that what follows is merely its burial, let's go back and answer the two questions. To address the former first, that being, are there really no atheists in Foxholes, the answer is a resounding no. There are atheists in Foxholes, both in the literal sense and in the metaphorical. There are countless non-religious veterans from all over the world who were once literally in a foxhole, fearing for their life, genuinely believing that they're about to die, and yet they didn't all of a sudden start believing in fairy tales. And the same is true of those who have lived through metaphorical foxholes, such as many of Dan's ex-patients. Rather than praying to a god to guide Dan's team, they thanked Dan's team for what they're about to attempt, and science and technology for making it possible. And so, as if this myth wasn't already debunked, consider this the nail in its coffin. It's just nonsense. There are atheists in foxholes, and this is proven by the fact that there are atheists that have survived foxholes. And to answer the second question, that being, do atheists really turn to God in their hour of need? The answer is actually both yes and no, and the main reason for this is because of the definition of atheism. As previously mentioned, to qualify as an atheist, all you have to be is not convinced that a god exists. That's it. Nothing else is required. You don't need to understand evolution, appreciate the Big Bang, have respect for the scientific method, or even be non-religious. And so what this means is that a non-theistic, middle-aged, superstitious woman who has never wrestled with existential questions is just as much an atheist as me, Daniel Dennett, and the Dalai Lama. And so, of course, when atheists such as this made-up woman are in dire straits and without hope, they're bound to appeal to just about anything. But here's the thing, and this is extremely telling. Americans overwhelmingly invoke Yahweh, Cambodians overwhelmingly invoke Nirvana, and Tunisians overwhelmingly invoke Allah, which makes one thing crystal clear. People tend to invoke whatever is popular in their culture, and so this isn't an argument for God, it's an argument for irrationality. As a final act of futility, many people simply reach out for absolutely anything. Now, to be fair, some atheists who have thoroughly thought about religion and the purpose of life may well become religious in their time of need, be this due to honest inquiry and personal reflection, or brain damage caused by a tumour. But as already proven, most atheists of this calibre don't lose their rationality along with their hope, and since all it takes is one atheist in a foxhole to disprove this nonsensical, derogatory claim, we can consider it well and truly debunked. Now, there's a lot more that can be said about this assertion, but considering the length of this video, I'm only going to say but two more things. The first is an excellent point that was first made to me by Dan himself, which after subsequent research we have found is perhaps best conveyed by Thomas J. Anderson in his book Why We Believe in Gods, and it's this. Maybe there are only atheists in foxholes. If the faithful truly and fully believe in a protective deity, why would they dive into a foxhole to protect themselves from the bullets whizzing by? A part of their brain knows damn well that if they do not protect themselves, the bullets will hardly discriminate between those who claim faith and those who reject it. Indeed, there's a reason why the Popemobile is reinforced with bulletproof glass. And the last point I want to make is actually a reiteration of a truly brilliant one made by Hemant Mehta.
Every now and then you hear these stories about people who didn't serve in the military but pretended to do so. And we get upset about it, we get angry about it, because it somehow dishonors the people who really did make that sacrifice. Well, I would argue that saying atheists don't serve in the military should also be considered an act of stolen valor.
And I couldn't agree more. The assertion that there are no atheists in foxholes is not only false, it's incredibly disrespectful. Atheists have died in the act of protecting our future, and for anyone to spit on their grave by effectively calling them liars or unthoughtful is truly nasty. I for one would never do this to a religious person, and yet the religious seem to do this all the time. If they're not claiming that atheists converted on their deathbeds, they're claiming that atheists converted in foxholes, and I find both of these vacuously reprehensible. As always, thank you kindly for the view. An extra special thank you to my patrons and to those of you who have donated via PayPal. And a super thank you to Dan, both for suggesting and collaborating with me on this video, and of course for his support, which is largely responsible for my being able to create videos nearly full time. On behalf of us all, thank you Dan. You're helping us spread reason and rationality in a world lacking in both.